So John Mann, member of the House of Lords and independent advisor to the government on anti-Semitism, has attacked Zack Polanski on this very issue. So pro-Israel group, the Board of Deputies for Jews, put out a statement condemning a school in Bristol cancelling a visit with Labour MP Damon Egan over his role as vice chair of Labour Friends of Israel, accusing them of anti-Semitism. And Zack Polanski, who was Jewish, called out the bullshit. Conflating anti-Semitism with criticism of the Israeli government is dangerous. The Board of Deputies keep muddying the waters. This isn't about him being Jewish, it's about his position as vice chair of Labour Friends of Israel. Now, Zack is bang on, but enter Lord Mann, who, by the way, isn't Jewish. He came out and attacked the only current Jewish leader of a major political party in Britain. Only the leader of a national party saying which Jews should be and which Jews shouldn't be allowed into schools. And this is what we operate on, what we've operated on for years. Zack is clearly pointing out that Damien Egan's visit was cancelled because the school didn't like the fact that he is vice chair of an organisation that promotes a state committing genocide. And then Mann just says, well, Zack doesn't want Jewish people in schools. They have absolutely nothing. And by the way, no one's going to be convinced by this. Zack replied with, I didn't hear you speak up when Reform UK or the Daily Mail targeted me with anti-Semitic attacks. Anti-Semitism isn't a game. Stop trivialising it with nakedly political interventions in defence of Labour that our Jewish communities don't need. Now, if you don't remember, this is an AI generated by Reform of Zack Polanski, which is clearly anti-Semitic, and Mann, well, he said nothing. As soon as anyone talks about Israel, though, he screams anti-Semitism. That's because Lord Mann doesn't give a shit about anti-Semitism. He responded by saying, a game when my family has needed police protection, when I intervene to support others living in fear in this country, I suggest a meeting. Oh, I suggest a meeting. What, so you can lecture a Jewish man on why he should be supporting a genocidal regime? So Philip Proudfoot then weighed in. He said, why is this man, who is not Jewish, lecturing the only Jewish leader of a British political party on how to stand up to anti-Semitism? Very strange. Mann came back with, because he hasn't dealt with the issue in his own party in the past. Perhaps he might do so now, just the same as the demand on all other party leaders on issues raised by the Jewish community. Once again, it's double standards for left-wing politicians and parties. We saw huge pressure on Labour under Jeremy Corbyn to deal with anti-Semitism. We're seeing it with the Greens, yet no one talks about anti-Semitism in the Tories. No one talks about it in the Reform Party. And what anti-Semitism has he been referring to? There hasn't been any in the Green Party. Look, I'm sure there's been a small number of incidents. I mean, that's going to happen. You're going to have it in society. You're going to have it in politics. Saying that there should be 0% anti-Semitism in a political party is like saying there should be 0% misogyny. You'd have to police every single person, and any instance of someone being sexist, well, that's a crisis. Like, you can't physically stop that. But what anti-Semitism issue is in the Greens? I'm sorry, there isn't one. And no one is falling for that bullshit. Just like in Labour, there was no crisis, and there isn't an anti-Semitism crisis in the Greens now. But this isn't about anti-Semitism, but policing criticisms of Israel and policing language of Jewish people who oppose genocide. I'd also like to know who Lord Mann refers to when he says the Jewish community, the BOD. No community is a monolith. Never trust people who say the community says this or the community says that. Even if 90% of the so-called Jewish community backed Israel, it would still be wrong. But I'm sure that's not even the case. Liberal Democrat peer Sarah Ludford jumped to Mann's defence. So according to you, Zack Polanski, only those who are Jewish are allowed to speak up against anti-Semitism. Only Muslims can say anything about anti-Muslim hate. Only women can stand up against misogyny. No wonder you left the Liberal Democrat Party. You didn't measure up. The piss diamonds are so bitter that Zack has gone on to bigger and better things. They're seething because he's made the Greens more popular. They're consistently outpolling the Lib Dems, and he's done it in a matter of months. And I think it's crazy to say, oh, are only Jewish people allowed to speak out against anti-Semitism? Jesus fucking Christ. For years, during the fake anti-Semitism crisis in Labour, we were constantly lectured saying the BOD says this, the Jewish Chronicle says that, Now the line is, well, you don't need to be Jewish to speak out against it. Yes, that's always been the case. It's absurd that you have to be a member of a community to speak out. But Mann, who isn't Jewish, accused a Jewish man of anti-Semitism for being pro-Israel. I'm sorry, but that's the world the anti-Semitism concerned trollers created. Now they don't like it. Zack shot back and said, just a liberal Democrat peer rushing to Lord Mann's defence and once again confusing a job title with the act of actually standing up to anti-Semitism. Mann quote tweeted and said, then ask across the Jewish community what they think about the issue of banning an MP from a school in his constituency. Well, Mann is obviously being selective, isn't he? Because Zack is a member of said community and Zack is calling bullshit on the BOD, yet Mann doesn't think his voice matters. What Mann means, really, is the pro-Israel community. He is such a vile man. He has a long history of weaponizing anti-Semitism, and I can't think of anything lower than throwing Jewish people under the bus, accusing them of anti-Semitism when they oppose Israel. So much respect for Zack by calling out the BOD and those who are cynically weaponizing this issue.